Hey YouTube, Kiritwig here, bringing you all an update to my Supreme King Zark Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for April 2020. A lot of you have been requesting an update to the Zark deck. In fact, I think it's one of my most requested deck profiles. Was just waiting for the April ban list before I actually decided to try my hand at updating this deck. Just wanted to see if anything would be hit or if anything would come off the ban list for this deck. And after finding out that Destrudo was banned on the latest list, it definitely did affect the overall plays you can do with the deck, but we also got some boost in plays with the deck since we are now able, with Master Rule 5, to be able to summon Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters in the main monster zone without having the need of Link monsters, giving us extra, utility for a bunch of different monsters we can summon out to the field, and just, skipping a step of a Link monster to get out Zark, which requires, all those different Odd Eyes, Clearwing, Dark Rebellion, and Starving Venom monsters on the field to summon. But let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the monsters, probably one of the most important ones, being your main way to get out Supreme King Zark, is Chronograph Sorcerer. If a card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can special summon one monster from your hand. You can only banish this card you control, plus 4 monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard, one with each Pendulum Dragon, Xyz Dragon, Synchro Dragon, and Fusion Dragon, and its card names to special summon one Supreme King Zark from your extra deck. This is treated as a fusion summon, so your big boss monster being your Supreme King Zark is your main go-to play, and to summon it out, you obviously have to get out Starving Venom, and then also your Dark Rebellion, your Clearwing, and also your Odd Eyes monsters. Out on the field, graveyard, you name it, as long as you can get them in those spots and then use Chronograph's effect to banish them, then you can summon out Zark. It's your easiest way to summon out the monster, but having Chronograph Sorcerer just as that resource to be an easy special summon on the field, not even needing your Pendulum Summon, definitely does come in handy. And I also run the one Time Gazer Magician just to help with the additional scale effect of this card, being able to then use it as a scale if you need it for your pendulum plays after you set this card in the scale, and then setting Time Gazer Magician from your deck into that scale also, and then also being able to special summon Chronograph Sorcerer with a pendulum summon back onto the field. For the Supreme King monsters, I am running 3 Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. When it's in the graveyard, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card, and when it is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Supreme Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. It's your main searcher for that, plus being a free special summon from the graveyard and being a level 4 monster makes it very versatile for all the different plays you can do for your monsters, including summoning out your Dark Rebellion, using it as a fusion material for your Starving Venom monster. You have plenty to use this card with, and plenty of ways to set it up in the graveyard as well. And then the 2 monsters I like to search out is Supreme King Gate 0. It's just an additional monster to use for your plays. I don't really use the other gate. I've tried it in other deck profiles, didn't really enjoy it as much for what it could do in the deck. Just having that search for Supreme King Gate 0, being in a scale 0 to use for pendulum scales, or even just as an additional monster for some of your Link summons, because there are some pretty important Link monsters that I still do like to use in the deck, so just being that additional boost comes in handy for sure. And then for the Magician monsters, I'm running 3 Wisdom Eye Magician. Some of our other Magicians, including Black Fang Magician, Purple Poison, and also White Wing Magician, count as the monsters for Zark, so you don't even have to summon out the monster if you can search out those. So with Wisdom Eye, being able to set them in the scale just sets them up for me destroying them using their effects, and then special summoning them back out to the field for the pendulum plays. But Wisdom Eye also helps just for proper scale adjustment, so I have monsters to pendulum summon out onto the field much more easier, or to just get scales that can help for all my different plays also. So I like to run 3 of this, especially just for that easy search. And for the Magician monsters that also count as Dark Rebellion, Clearwing, Starving Venom, and Odd Eyes, I run 2 Black Fang Magician. Just the attack lowering effect of its scale. It also, when it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Dark Spellcaster from your graveyard back onto the field. More resources to use with this card, and just the additional plus of it being an 8 scale helps with pendulum summoning out monsters. I also run 2 Purple Poison Magician. This one helps with destroying face-up cards on the field, but also counting it as a Fusion Dragon card assists with the Supreme King Zark play as well. And we'll get to the one White Wing Magician. I only run the one. It doesn't really help as much as Purple Poison or Black Fang Magician, and it's searchable with other cards in the deck like Pendulum Call. It still counts as Synchro Dragon, which I would say Clearwing is definitely one of the more difficult monsters to summon out in the deck, just needing the Synchro Dragon play for this card. But you do have options to go into a level 7 Synchro using our basically our Time Gazer Magician with, let's say, Harmonized Magician or White Wing Magician. But also, with this card, you have that additional monster to go for the play. And like I said, being searchable, it just helps for that use of this card. Would definitely be a lot easier if we still had Destrudo, but relying on the one White Wing Magician and the Time Gazer for the synchro plays we can do. And an easy way to summon out Time Gazer Magician is still with the Harmonizing Magician. This card can help with any of your plays you need for your additional monster. That's why I like to run 3 of this card in the deck. It's able to special summon out your Time Gazer Magician and then give you the level 7 synchro play, or you can even summon out your Purple Poison using these 2 for the fusion of your Starving Venom, or summoning out Black Fang and overlaying the 2 into Dark Rebellion for your play for the Xyz monster. This card is just very, very versatile. It helps with a lot of those summons, and if you need just one specific card left, it can be your go-to card to make that play happen. And then for some of the more powerful scale plays, I run 2 Oath Dragon with the Pendulum Summoning into the extra monster zone still being limited to that extra monster zone. The 2 Oath Dragon definitely do help for recycling monsters back into my hand to summon back out onto the field with a Pendulum Summon. So relying on this for that play definitely does help. And also being searchable, it's one of my go-to cards with Wisdom Eye, just so I can then add more cards back to the extra deck that much more quickly when I have another card in my Pendulum Scale. And I'm also running 1 Zhangqi Magician. The effect for the face-up Xyz monster to use as an Xyz material doesn't help as often. Just having another lower scale monster that can also be a light negation effect when it's on the field helps for a lot of different decks I might go up against also. But one of the newer cards from Magical Hero that I am testing out in the deck and do like the results is Perform Power Celestial Magician. Just having different effects and also being able to save our Xyz, Synchro, and Fusion monsters on the field is a big plus for sure. And just being another high scale in the deck goes very, very well for the overall Pendulum Summoning I like to acquire in the deck. Hopefully one day we will get Double Iris back in the deck, because that one especially helps. But, having an Odd Eyes play still very, very useful as well. But relying on Perform Power Celestial Magician for that, and the fact that it is a dark level 4 monster, means that I can use it for, Starving Venom, Dark Rebellion, or, even if I need for some of the level 8 synchro plays, which I still do in the deck because they are a big help for sure, come in handy also. But for making up for the Double Iris Magician, I am running 2 Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, being the card to go for in exchange, since you do need the Pendulum Dragon to summon out to your Supreme King Zark. Relying on 2 Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon definitely does come in handy, just as a quick way you can send it to the graveyard just like Supreme King Darkworm and then banish it with Chronograph's effect, or even just relying on it for its easy Pendulum Summon and heavy damage it can do comes as a good search also. But that's my biggest way I would say to summon out this card for consistency with Supreme King Zark. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. 3 Pendulum Call, it's definitely needed in the deck for all the different search. You can even discard Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon or your Supreme King Darkworm for the cost of Pendulum Call, searching out some of the other more needed cards, but still having them in the graveyard to go off of for the play especially. So Pendulum Call helps for that scale setup, and then also just for protecting your Pendulum Scales so you can Pendulum Summon out your monsters without fear of your opponent destroying your Pendulum Scales. And I also run 2 Star Pendulum Graph. With this one, your opponent cannot target spellcaster monsters you control with spell cards or effects. If a face-up Magician Pendulum monster leaves your monster zone or Pendulum zone, you can add 1 Magician Pendulum from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Star Pendulum Graph once per turn. This search consistency just helps with the destruction to add another one to your hand, especially with that search needing more and more cards for it, but also the protection play for your spellcasters means you'll successfully be able to get out Zark without your opponent interrupting any of those plays. The biggest play you have to fear, obviously, is the Zark play. But also, I run the 1 Foolish Burial and the 2 Dragon Shrine. Most of the time, I like to send the Supreme King Darkworm for the special summon and search you can do with this card. But if need be, I can also send, which would probably be one of the quickest ways to set it up in the graveyard for the Zark play, is Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. Being in the graveyard, you just need to banish it from your hand, field, or graveyard for Supreme King Zark. So having that set up is a lot quicker for sure, since Odd Eyes is also a dragon for your plays to go off of. And for some more fusion plays, I'm running 2 Super Polymerization just with the different fusion monsters we're running. This one definitely does come in handy. The graveyard play for more of the setup for some of those pendulum monsters is also assisted with Super Polymerization, and having that option for this card is a big help as well. And I run the 1 Polymerization. This is for an actual search, which I'll get to when we go over the traps, which I've been testing out in the deck, and I really do like the results it has for the consistency for the search it can do with the deck, which we'll go over just in a second. But Polymerization helps to get out Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, since we're relying more on the Odd Eyes and Magician monsters in this deck, and not so much the Performer Pal monsters that you can use for fusion plays. So relying on the spells, I would say, is one of your quickest ways to get out Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. The only drop I'm running is 2 Pendulum Dimension. This card came out in Magical Hero as well. If you special summon any of these monsters using a Pendulum monster as material while this card is already face up in your spell and trap card zone, you can activate the appropriate effect. You cannot apply the same effect of Pendulum Dimension for the rest of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. If you fusion summon, special summon 1 monster from your deck with the same original level as that fusion monster in defense position, but negate its effects. Synchro, you can add 1 Polymerization from your deck to your hand. So when you synchro summon, getting that Polymerization search just helps for the then fusion play you can do. And with Exceed, take 1 tuner from your deck with an equal or lower level than that Exceed monster's rank and add it to your hand or special summon. It'd be another search for cards like Harmonizing Magician. With this deck, you have so many different search powers you can do when you want all 3 of your summoning methods to work together with this card. Whether it be Fusion, Synchro, or Exceed, you have options for all of those cards with this one in the deck. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. Your main boss monster, Supreme King Zark. With this card, you don't really use it much for the Pendulum Scale. It will place it in the Pendulum Zone when it's destroyed, but it must be fusion summoned. If this card is special summoned, destroy all cards your opponent controls. Cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon 1 Supreme King Dragon monster from your deck or extra deck. If this card is in the monster zone and destroy by battle, you place it in the Pendulum Scale. So this is your go-to play for your Supreme King Zark, being the overall power play you want to do with the deck. Also, it's a really, really strong play to rely on, and like I said, it's very, very easy. You need the 4 dragon monsters, 1 fusion, synchro, seed, and pendulum, so you technically could use Polymerization to summon out, but the quickest way to do so is with your Chronograph Sorcerer, being able to use this card's effect. When this one, you can special summon this card, and after you do, you can banish this card plus 4 monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard. So all the setup we talked about before to summon out your Supreme King Zark, and then we have plenty of other options in the extra deck to summon out with this card also. For the additional fusion monsters, I'm running 1 of the new Starving Venomy Lethal Dose Dragon. With this one, you need 3 Dark Pendulum monsters to make it so it can be a potential super poly play, even using your opponent's resources or just a good amount of yours to summon out this boss monster, relying on it for some of the stronger plays to go for as well. But most of the time, I like to go for the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Since this one isn't a Fusion Dragon, it's just an extra additional fusion summon to rely on, but Starving Venom Fusion Dragon is your go-to one as always. Also, the 1 Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon for the plays you can do sometimes with Odd Eyes and a Pendulum monster. It comes in handy just as backup fusion plays. And then for the Xyz monsters, I'm running 1 Dark Anthelion Dragon, another new one from the Dual Overload Booster Pack, just as an optional rank 7 to summon out for some more stronger plays as well, and a pretty big scale setup also. And I also run the 1 Time Star Magician, the 1 Supreme King Dark Dragon Rebellion. This one is good for the Zark special summon as one of the 2 options. Since the Starving Venom Dark King is actually banned, I don't really like the Odd Eyes one as much. I'm relying on the Dark Rebellion one and the Clear Wing one, and also the original Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, the easiest Xyz to summon out in the deck to go for your plays. And then for the Synchro monsters, I run the 1 Clearwing, your special summon monster, to rely on for your Supreme King Zark as well. When you summon out your Time Gazer and you're harmonizing together for that play to go into, with the other Supreme King being Supreme King Dragon Clearwing, probably one of my favorite ones. It's probably one of the best ones to destroy your opponent's cards and just for more protection on your field. 1 Enlightenment Paladin, the recycle power with this card and spells is a big help for sure. Also 1 Igniter Prominence for the shuffle back plays with the Pendulum Scales, and the 1 Borreload Savage Dragon with the Link monsters we do run. It's an additional help also. And then for the Link monsters, I run 1 Predaplant, Vert, Anaconda. You can try out some other, generic Scale 2s that you can use for the deck, but this one helps for the fusion plays you can go off of with this card, just needing 2 effect monsters, and you don't really use life points for anything else in the deck, so I do like relying on it for that play. And the 1 Zephyra Metaltron. We don't have to rely on Link monsters too much anymore with this deck because of Master Rule 5, but just like having these 2 as the additional options. Also, since Electromite is banned, we can't use that card, but these 2 help for just extending some of our plays in the deck. And like I said, your go-to play would always be to set up the 4 cards required for the summon of Supreme King Zark, relying on these 4 monsters to summon out your boss monster along with your Chronograph Sorcerer. So as long as you have this setup, or even if you were able to special summon out these cards, if you open up these cards in your hand, and then also just the additional search of your Chronograph Sorcerer, you can rely on your Pendulum Call, discarding 1 of your other cards in your hand. It could be any other card. It can even just be the Supreme King Darkworm for that consistency. So just opening up these cards in your hand is a quick way to access the summon for your Supreme King Zark, with it just relying on the discard of your Darkworm into your search for the additional summon of these cards on the field, and then also being able to special summon Zark from the graveyard gives you a special summon without taking up your normal summon as well. And then if you tribute the Darkworm into your Chronograph Sorcerer, still having the 4 other cards with, like I said, you could search out any of the Magician cards in your hand for that setup, being the play to go for, and then being able to banish, like I said, the 4 monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard. So it's a big play and your big investment there, but a lot of the time the late game reliable part of this deck is that with just all the build up to summon out Zark can be another plus as well. But just easily banishing all these cards gives you the Supreme King Zark on the field. You used up your whole hand for the play, but it is the main play of the deck to go for, and can be a lot of fun. But like I said, late game, if you're just building up all these other cards as well, and you rely on the Chronograph Sorcerer, having all these either set up in the graveyard, the field, or even just having the other monsters in the graveyard, including Clearwing, Dark Rebellion, Starving Venom, and Odd Eyes, an easy banish as well for Supreme King Zark. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.